Yeah, thanks, Pranita, for reminding me. You are always very vigilant. Uh, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So earlier, whatever we discussed were basically on the quality standards. Like we had an in-depth understanding on ISO 13485, the internal auditing sessions. Perhaps we have gone very depth into MDSAP. Okay, and we have learned a lot of things in MDSAP. Of course, we also understood some of the uh, regulatory requirements that are there in FDA. Okay, then we also discussed on the ISO 10993. Okay, what are the new requirements and the basic requirements on ISO 9, that's on biological evaluation. And today I want to close the discussion on uh, the risk management. Okay. Uh, of course, we discussed a lot of other topics apart from these standards. So I would like to know from you. Uh, there are a lot of things we discussed, but I'm not able to recollect. Like once I have to go back to the uh, WhatsApp group readings, like what we have discussed. So of course there are few standards still which we need to discuss, like on IEC 62304, okay, which is more linked to SOMED. And next, I think we should move to the global regulatory perspective, discussing, okay, most of the UMDR, USFDA and IMDR. Okay, IMDR 2017, UMDR 2017 745 and 746, both IVDs and medical devices. Okay, and their combination of medical devices uh, with drugs, that's a combination products. Okay, and USFDA on what are the different regulatory pathways. So once we discuss, of course, I'll also be touching on a couple of other regulations like the SFDA and MHAP or MOHAP. That's for UAE, and this is for SFDA is for Saudi. Because I said in the last session, like there is a lot of demand, people moving away from the west towards the southeast. Okay, it's not because of the Iran war or some West Asia conflict, but due to various reasons, people are moving away from North America or Europe towards the Southeast or Asia Pacific. Of course, there are Latin American countries where we'll discuss, okay, on standards on NVISA or regulations on NVISA. And of course, they almost all the Latin American countries have perhaps the same regulations. So you look at Peru, Portugal, and other things. And we'll also discuss the regulations, as I said, in the Gulf. Mainly Saudi and UAE are the big countries. Of course, Qatar, Oman are there, but their import is very less compared to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. Okay, their regulations. And coming to the far Saudis like in Philippines, Vietnam, and Cambodia. Okay, these are also big. Actually, Vietnam is a big market. Thailand. Okay, we will discuss all these global perspectives on what these regulations are, because at the end of discussing all these regulations, I want you to look at the global perspective of the regulations, not just IMDR 2017 or just Europe UMDR 2017. Of course, the most complex, most tedious, or most complicated regulation is the UMDR. Okay, I hope you agree with me because it's such an extensive thing, but I like UMDR because they cover everything and very precisely. And when you look at their guidance documents or MDCG documents, they provide a lot of information, guidance on how to do this. They also provide a lot of formats and other things. Okay. Compared to other regulations where you have very scanty document on how to work on these regulations. Of course, if you look at IMDR, uh, I think IMDR we don't have much guidance document. Just they say you follow that standard and other things. Uh, I mean, just recently only I discussed about IMDR on different schedules and chapters. I mean, I I need to confess, like I'm not a master in IMDR 2017 because uh, to me the regulations doesn't make much sense. Okay, but you have USFDA where the regulatory pathways are entirely different from other countries. Okay, they have a different system of registrations, different system of certifications and approvals, like the 510 case. In 510 case, you have different systems. I mean, different modules on how you can go the traditional de novo special. Okay, 4 5 things are there. And the other is the PMA, post market approval. There are two, so that we'll discuss. Europe is a big market. Yeah, Leela will be joining. I think she has some problem with power issue. Of course, there is some problem with power issues everywhere, like because of unexpected rains. And these rains are also very stormy and like there are a lot of thunderstorms because these are not monsoon rains. These are not monsoons. Okay, these are because of some El Nino effect. Most of you have read what is El Nino effect. Because of that effect, there is, when the sea water gets heated up, okay, the sea surface water should be, generally it's 15 degrees. Now, because of global warming, it became 18 degrees. So all that warm wind is moving towards the coastal areas and towards the land side. So you will feel that, though the temperature is warm, temperature is not so high, but you still feel humid and warm. And that's El Nino effect. Okay, I can discuss on that also, but that's not our topic. But you will have less monsoons, early monsoons, but less rainfall. Okay. Uh, and what I'm telling, yeah, on the global regulatory prospect. So yeah, Anvisa is one where it is a big market. Brazil is a big market. Gulf GCC countries are big market, considering Saudi and UAE and Qatar and Oman. Okay, Bahrain is also there, but the problem with them is not the documentation. Hi, Madhusri. The
Hello,
problem
sir.
with them is not the documentation. The problem with them is I've really faced this problem. Uh, yeah, nobody is there like who are there with me during that time. Like it's finding an authorized representative in that countries. Okay, of course, I shared I have a couple of clients from Iran also. Okay, this is just before the war. War began. There were two clients. Big client, big order. Big work like 20-25 lakhs work. But unfortunately, they have sanctions, European sanctions. They want CE marking for a lot of their products. but there are European Union sanctions, we can't work with them. But at least some West Asian countries like Saudi, UAE, Oman, Qatar, they have very good regulations, very good system, and very fast approvals. Okay, and the documentation can be done easily, and the regulations are good. Uh, but the only problem is like finding an authorized representative in that particular country. In due time, like last 6 months, I worked out. So that areas we can discuss. And coming to the Eurasian countries, okay, not really Russia, but the standards are the regulations are common for Armenia, Kazakhstan, okay, Uzbekistan, and Belarus. Uh, some of these countries, okay, which uh, they have, I mean, including Ukraine, okay, they have common regulations like they're called Eurasia because they lie between Europe and Asia. Their standards are Eurasian. So that is where you can learn. Okay. And coming to still East, Southeast, I said Vietnam, Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, that are the areas where we can learn some regulations. So combine all this. Okay. The Northern Hemisphere, Europe, Canada, and US. Okay, the southern like Latin American countries and few African countries, but mostly concentrating on the Gulf countries, Middle East countries, and of course we have our own country where now the consumption has increased or the use of medical devices has much increased, and we have the capacity to do, uh, I mean, ramp up the manufacturing and do a lot of exports. Okay. Then I said like uh, the Eurasian countries. So all that global perspectives will learn. Okay, in the next coming weeks, maybe I may opt for if you are okay, fine. Except for few uh, like on Fridays and Saturdays. Let's see how it works. But that's my proposal. But if you have consensus, we can do like how to work on. I mean, learning one after the other regulations. We may start with Europe or we may start with US, India, or I mean whatever it you like. Then going to different countries and trying to find what is the difference between the regulations of different countries. Okay, doing the gap analysis. Okay, and my point here, what I'm making you to understand is like it's not like you should be restricted to just Europe or doing UMDR or 510K or IMDR for CD scope. Okay, you need to spread your tentacles or your knowledge to other countries because I can clearly see a lot of markets moving away from the West. Okay, uh, maybe Akanksha knows that. Maybe Madhusri also knows that. She's in SOMAT, surgical medical devices, I mean, surgical robotics and all that stuff. So a lot of things are happening. And before that, okay, there are few standards which we need to discuss. Or I would like to give an option like, should we go for IEC 62304? Okay, where we study about, I mean, the SOMAT, different aspects of SOMAT. Okay. Of course, 6304 is on the total life cycle of the SOMAT, but apart from 62304, there are a lot of other aspects of software medical devices. Okay, like Pranita has said on cyber security. Okay, and the integration of this SOMED with AML, there are lot of information getting in now. Okay, it became the part of the regulations. Integration of software with AML, the cyber security has become like, I mean, I'll tell you, people who are good in cyber security, I mean, working on cyber security, not just for SOMED, okay, for any software that is there in the organizations, okay, I mean, how the systems work, understanding how the systems work, and how to mitigate uh, the system's outflow or information outflow to others or hacking out the systems. What are the different media? It doesn't, I mean, it's not rocket science or hi-fi science. Okay, you can understand because you understand the softwares very well, you understand the medical devices very well. Okay, there are a lot of risks with softwares, not just medical devices, softwares which we use in your companies. Okay, where you, I mean, store your files, that can have a lot of threats. So that is one area. Okay, and of course, the usability engineering is one area on software. Okay, of course, like I said, 62304 is a big one, which also includes classification. Okay, total life cycle design, I mean, life cycle, software life cycle from design, architecture, configuration, maintenance, risk mitigations, and also on the cyber security and their linkage with PMS. Okay, all that can also be discussed in 62305. Apart from that, I said on cyber security, on AML linked to softwares and other things. Okay, mainly in the diagnostic equipment. Okay, see, when I say software medical devices, they include diagnostic equipment, a lot of software like they use in of late you use in surgical robotics, because surgical robotics are becoming very very popular. Okay, I just I've read it yesterday. They have done a wonderful surgery with surgical robotics in cancer patients. Okay, removing the total tumor. Uh, I I'll post it on my status. I forgot what the tumor is, but it's very malignant tumor, which they have removed it. So I want you to give me a perspective. Like, should we go with the global perspectives on regulations? Because we already had concise knowledge on the quality systems. We studied about global quality systems on MDSAP ISO 13485 and the integration of 21 CFR 820 into ISO 13485. I know like the quality system has become global now. Okay, with the advent of MDSAP and with inclusion of 21 CFR 820 integrating with 13485. Okay, and a lot of countries are moving towards MDSAP. So you have a global quality system. And the second thing which you need to focus that could really be a very important avenue is on software medical devices, their validations like say total life cycle, their integration, cyber security on all that stuff. And the third one is on global regulatory prospectus. Okay, you got my point? So I want to hear from you, like which of the one you'll want me to work on in next classes. Should we go with SOMED or should we go with global regulatory affairs? Okay, just you can post to me on WhatsApp and based on your choice and consensus, we can take it up. And second thing is on the risk management. Okay. Uh, yeah, on the risk management, uh, I am providing you, actually for MDSAP also, I thought I should provide you a training certificate. It's not like uh, uh, getting on with the exam, but at least a certificate that you have attended the MDSAP section, maybe because we have discussed them in very lengthy, I mean, uh, in length. Okay, MDSAP, uh, okay, that you have participated uh, in the training sessions on MDSAP, that I will give you maybe in next 3 4 days, and I also give you a certificate on training certificate on risk management. Okay, but you need to clear a couple of MCQs. Okay, not really an exam, but the MCQs what I'm sharing now. If you answer at least 6 7 of them, I think you are good to receive. Okay, you are good to receive the risk. Uh, Risk management training certificate from Salvation Global. And the good thing what happened is Salvation Global, we are recognized as MSME, and we got some funding, okay, to develop our organization. Not great, something like 15 lakhs funding. So we have been authorized uh, to enroll in a lot of other programs, mainly in the Viksit Bharat program, basically linked to AML and others. I mean, health for all, democratizing healthcare for everything. So that is one of the project which they were assigned to us. And the second project we got is from the BIRAC DBT. Okay, that's a different project, mainly on yes, Suma Madhuri. You raise your hand. The second project is on on a software which we developed predicting the cardiovascular diseases, okay, in Indian population. Okay, that software has to be converted into, no, it is in a machine learning platform that has to be converted into a software or into an app, okay, and that can be later used in mobile phones free of cost. Like for that, some funding has been allocated by the BIRAC, that's a DVT Government of India. There is another project which we are working on, that's with I think Madhu knows, with Kirti Anusha. Yeah, Kirti Anusha, regarding personalized AML guided personalized treatment, chemotherapy treatment in cancer patients. Okay, with AML will calculate everything based on the patient risk factors, patient diagnostic parameters. Okay, what are the drugs to be given to the, I mean, for the chemotherapy of cancer patients. Okay, uh, because of late, personalization of certain drugs is very important. Personal medicine, personalized medicine, or personalized treatment. It's not like one size fits all. You can't have same treatment for every patient, whoever has cancer. Mainly in very narrow therapeutic drugs or drugs like cancers or immunosuppressants, and some drugs used in basically in CNS disorders like epilepsy, anticonvulsants, or Alzheimer's. So this is one project on personalized medicine for any cancer, okay, where the AML models will calculate the dosage, infusion, and all that stuff. So that's what I am telling you. But the point here is like, let me know, should next session should we go with SOMED, or with the global perspectives on regulations, okay? Because these are two important things. Having understood the quality systems, if you have any, still if you think that we need to grind and we need to regenerate or regurgitate some of the things in quality systems, still I'll tell you. But you got enough understanding on 13485 quality management system, I mean, internal auditing, you understood some aspects on MDSAP, okay, and 21 CFR 820, their integration, how to convert 13485, sorry, 21 CFR 820, how to integrate them with ISO 13485. If you have, I think I have touched that. If I have not touched that, but still I'm open discussing that. And biocompatibility studies ISO 10993, that is 2025 version. I told you what are the changes that happened in 2025 edition compared to the 2018, okay. And I also told you ISO 14971, that is risk management. There is a possibility by end of this year or early 2027 you may get a new edition. Now we are following 2019. Of course, there are some amendments that are made in 2021. That's why I said like it's ZNXR. The amendment is ZNXR specifically for Europe. Okay. And possibility that this new edition may come in end of 26 or 27. And like I appraised you long back, there is a very high probability that ISO 13485 may also undergo revision, and we may, I'm not pretty sure, but there was some intelligence reports coming in, like you may have 2026 or 27 edition of 13485, but still they give you time to adapt to the new edition. It's not like overnight we need to adapt to that. They'll give you 6 months time to adapt to 2027 version of 13485. So these are some of the things. And I know, like, I have discussed with you few new things, like on integration of 20 and CFR 820, or what are the changes that happened in biocompatibility studies in 2025 version. But you need to update yourself, okay? And if you have any problem, I mean, if you didn't understand anything, you can come back to me, and you need to keep them in practice. Otherwise, I said no, there's every chance we'll forget them. Okay, including MDSAP or your internal auditing. You should start practicing internal auditing and all that stuff. So maybe based on your requirement, I'll discuss SOMED next week. Okay, or I will go with regulations. Okay, any regulations, because you need to be strong with both. And if I see the future, it is going to be a global quality regulations, as you have the global quality system. Of course, there will be some differences between, uh, uh, there will be differences with the regulation, but that's where we need to understand what are the similarities and differences. Okay. And that will be a great thing to understand. To make it, I mean, to do a very smart work, okay, easy to understand, instead of doing very tedious and tough work, doing so much of humongous documentation, big documentation, so all that. You need to do a very small documentation, understanding the it from the roots. Okay, that will do, but you can provide me a choice on that, like where we should go. So I have Pranita, Majid, Akanksha, Venkatesh, Suma Madhuri, and Madhu. So I'm sharing you 10 MCQs on risk management. Whoever answers, okay, after this I'll give you one exercise, very simple one. Whoever answers at least 5 questions or 6 questions, I'll give you training certificate on that. You try to attempt that, and after that I'll ask you couple of questions, and you need to answer them in the chat book. Okay, and those who are not working professionals like Venkatesh or Suma Madhuris, you too need to answer them. Okay. Uh, okay, this is the one. I know this. Some of them are bit difficult. Can you read this? I think there's a problem with this system. Yeah, you can start answering. I know, like, I'll do one thing. Okay, now you can start answering. At least answer 5, 6, 60% is fine. If you answer more than 60, 70% is great. Okay. And later I'll ask you a couple of questions. See, why I'm saying this, okay, just listen to me for a minute. Because I started this with a lot of expectations, and I have shown a lot of expectation, I mean, passed on these expectations to this batch that will be doing and very advanced QA RA learnings. But I know, like, because of my health issues, the last 2 months I could not do. But I'm straight right back. I mean, doing my best, and I'm planning to deliver my best in next coming one month or 2 months, whether it's 30 days or 60 days, at least weekly twice or something like that. Okay, I started with such an vigor and enthusiasm, and I have passed on that enthusiasm to you also. But it so happened that I didn't have proper risk control, so I have entered into some risk. But I am back with strong copper. So I hope I'll perform, my performance will be good, okay, without any issues on safety. So please answer this. If you have any doubts in these questions, you can come back. You can ask me. you have done. Madhu has done good. Pranita has done good. Akanksha, where are you? Suma Madhuri. I have not checked Suma Madhuri answer. Yeah, Madhuri also done good. Akanksha. Let me check. I have checked only couple of for a couple of you. Like I checked Madhu and Pranita. They have done good. Of course, I think most of you have done well. Yeah, but good thing is all of you have attempted. Of course, Venkatesh, Mojid, you have not attempted. Okay. Mujahid Khan, you have not attempted. Yeah, some if you have done, somebody answer me. Somebody answer me question 4. For question 4, what is the answer? What is the answer for question 4? Okay, Mujahid, keep typing. Mother says C. Pranita, what is the answer? Pranita, what is the answer for question 4?
Yes, sir. See, perform a benefit risk analysis.
No, the point is if the risk is all feasible risk controls have been implemented, but the residual remains unacceptable. Okay, the residual risk remains unacceptable. What should you do?
Ideally, device should not delete with such a risk. I mean,
Now, what?
uh,
So, if there is a residual risk, how the residual risk is conveyed? You have used all your risk control options. I think I discussed this in last session. See, a manufacturer identifier risk that exceeds the predetermined acceptable criteria. All feasible risk controls have been implemented, but the residual risks remain unacceptable. What should be done next? See, when you release the device, okay, in the IFU, you should add it as an warning. I told you, like, if there are residual risks that can't be controlled further, either in your IFU, it should come as a warning. Basically, first it should come as a precaution. No, you are right. It should come as a warning first. Second, it should come as a precaution. Third, it should come as an contraindication. Okay, because I said this residual risk, end of the day, they convert, I mean, they in clinical scenario, they come as adverse events or complaints, serious adverse events. Okay, so it should be given in the warnings that this, you don't write in IFU that it has a residual risk. Okay, but you know what what that residual risk in turn in a clinical scenario. Okay, what will be the adverse event? Maybe it may cause allergy or it may cause uh, some issue on okay, like I said, uh, I mean, it depends upon the device. There will be less biodegradation of that or some safety issue that may require additional, okay, uh, intervention by the doctor. Okay, we call them as warnings. Still, you can use the device, but you should warn them if you use this, there will be something like there will be decrease in renal function for some time, the heart temperature will increase, or there will be some other disturbances in the physiology. But for that, you have to take additional measures, additional controls, okay, through other treatments. Okay. Of course, see, all residual risks will be discussed in risk benefit analysis or benefit risk analysis. You need to discuss all residual risks. Okay, not just one risk, all residual risk has to be discussed. But if the residual risk is unacceptable, okay, if you are not able to control the residual risk and the residual risk is unacceptable, then you need to mention it in the IFU. That is the importance. That is where I told you, you need to link risk management with your clinical evaluation report, and clinical evaluation report further will provide you the IFU. So when you link up the risk management with clinical evaluation report, you will exactly, I will show you end of this discussion how the residual risks convert into some adverse events or simple uh, complications, or some adverse events, or some may turn into serious adverse events. Okay, during that time you give them as warnings. Okay, this during the treatment with this device you will face this problem. For that problem, you should have a contingency plan how to control that or combat that. Okay. Even in precautions also, we mention that this device, okay, while using this particular device, there will be some issues with some insertion, or it will have some hypersensitivity, okay, or it may have the crossability will be less, or you may have some, if it is a diagnostic machine or diagnostic equipment, you may think that, you may say like it may have some 1% false positive. Okay, so you need to do the clinical correlation. That's what the radiologist say, like every diagnostics, every diagnostic report should have a clinical correlation, whether it's giving false positive or false negative, or you need to have a repeated examination, because I said all diagnostic uh, devices will have a chance, 1% chance of giving false positives or false negatives. Okay, mainly those linked with ML models, AI models, which are pre-trained. Okay, they will have a lot of issues. They'll have a lot of issues on the drifts, because of the drifts. You may not feed them, or you are not trained them with real world studies or real world clinical data. If you have not trained those, okay, your equipment or your software, when you don't train them with the real world, you have only a controlled clinical data. The real world data will be new to that. They may not identify, because you have only the controlled data, clinical data, which you have done in your studies. But the real world data is very vast. Okay, you have different variants or different variables that come in, different type of population come in, different risk factors come in, and the system is not aware, or the model is not aware of this. So it won't identify, or it won't give false positive. So it's always important that you need to train your systems with real world data, not the controlled clinical data. Okay, in all software. Suppose I take examples of surgical robotics. It can have there will be some residual risk with that, but that's why in surgical robotics there will be a continuous monitoring, okay, human monitoring, okay, and if there are any residual risks that are through AIML, that can be controlled. But if there is absolutely there is no monitoring, and you have some intrusions through cyber security, somebody changed the coding of it, okay, that will behave very erratic. The surgical robot will behave erratic. Suppose you have changed the coding system of it, okay, or change the total algorithm of it, okay, but still it will be, I mean, that's why I said in healthcare system it's very important that it should be having proper governance. Okay, so fourth, most of you wrote wrong, those who have attempted, but the answer is this should come in additional as a warning. Okay, and those who have written risk benefit analysis, perform risk benefit or benefit risk analysis, it's true. But for all residual risks, you do benefit risk analysis. Okay, and remaining others, most of you have written right. And some, I think you have written this sequence wrong. First is hazard. Once a hazard faces a hazardous situation, then only it will become a harm. Okay. The harm is nothing but the risk. For after the risk, you will have risk controls. Okay, but that's fine. Okay, now I again want to just for 5 10 I'll give you 5 minutes before it is 8 o'clock, because 8 to 9 I'll take the session where I'll move fast to complete, because we already discussed a lot of things. Before the break, I discussed on risk management. Last class also we discussed risk management, but I discussed all of them in one page. In the contents of 14971 only, I discussed everything. So you listen to the recordings which I have shared. Okay, of course, I will be discussing everything sequentially now. Where we'll move fast because you have an understanding, and as I see from your answers, you got the concept on risk management. Okay, second thing what I'm asking is, okay, uh, just can you write in chat like what are the residual risks? See, Madhu is working in a company, Akanksha is working, Suma Madhuri, you can pick up a device, whatever device you worked on, and Pranita, you can pick up a device, and Mujit, okay, you can pick up a device. So in that, you write just 2 points on what are basically the risk controls you adopt for your device, for your company device. Okay, what are the two you write any risk controls. What are the two risk control documents which you use for your device? Maybe Akanksha is working on IVDs. You can write two risk controls. Madhu is working on some other devices like I know what Intuitive devices are. Madhuri can write on couple of the devices where she worked with Biotechnica, and Pranita can choose any device she likes. Okay, simple class A you can device, class B, class C, or class D, or as per other classification, class 1, because class 1, class 2, or class A, class B doesn't have much risk control. Or class B, class C and D will have a lot of risk controls. Okay, but I am not expecting anybody to write IFU as a risk control. Okay, except IFU, you write anything as risk controls. Okay, you have 5 minutes time. Write what are the risk controls of your devices. Generally, risk controls will be very common, not specific to device, but you can remember what are the risk controls you adopt for your devices, whether it's from design development, raw material, manufacturing, biocompatibility, sterilization, okay, or your clinicals, okay, make it fast. Okay, risk control options or risk mitigations. Okay, I told you different categories. And I told you the order how preferentially the risk controls will be adopted. Like I said, first is inherent by design. The second is, okay, production activities. The second preferred. The third is on like information to the end user, brochures, training, IFU is the third option. IFU is a risk control, but it's the last option. First option is inherent by design. First, you need to look at the design, or you can work on everything. Okay, you can look at your raw material. What is the design control, sorry, risk control you have on raw material? It could be a simple test or simple document which you'll have control on that will control the risk. I can name hundreds of documents, but I want you to write at least two. Yeah, for fibroid ablation device, what are the risk controls? Pranita? Madhusri, you are thinking?
I just missed some. I was out for 2 minutes. I got to know we have to select the device and we have to tell what are the control measures, risk control measures being
Yeah,
taken.
your company device or any device you can choose.
Okay, okay.
Okay. And Akanksha, you can do, you have some, I know about your company device. What are the risk controls? See, at end of the session, you should able to write an risk management file. Okay. Akanksha said the risk, electrical safety of device, risk control measures, EMC testing, that is right. Or see temperature monitoring, sterile packing, EMC testing. Why you people are back of EMC testing? I think we need to discuss more on software medical devices. Madhurya says safe design and manufacture as strict quality checks, calibration control, software validation, productive measures. Stop, restart the device, error code prompt for redo test. Suma, you gave second one is there in IF. It is a IFU. Proper training is also the third option. Proper training on device usage IFU. This is a risk control, I know, but it is the last option for risk control. Safe design
Yes,
and manufacture. Of
that's why
course,
I
your
gave.
first, yeah, your first option is right. Protective features, stop, reset the device, error code, prompt for a redo test. This is the direction of use. Directions for use in IFU. Mother, what happened?
They're still recollecting.
Yeah, it take your time. Or should I tell you your device risk controls?
No, sir. I'll.
Because yours is the software medical device, it has a lot of things on cyber security, on pre-training, a lot of controls related to pre-approval change protocols will be there. It will be seen only in software medical devices. So, not it will be pre-approved change protocols, not with other devices, only Somat.
Recommendations. Uh,
Yeah, you can tell or you can,
okay, I'll type here.
yeah. What happened? Madhu, yeah, you have written, sorry. Device name, vessel, serial code, installation of conducting ports, put switch protection features, software controls, interlocks. Yeah, good. Yeah, you have, so many risk controls.
This was submitted recently, sir. So this is what we have mentioned.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have a lot of software controls. Oh, insulation of conducting parts like, such as. Yeah, that's fine. So, yeah, you're done well. I'll share Madhuri asked like what the answers for the MCQs. I'll post the question paper and also the answers in the WhatsApp group. You can check. I said no, all of you have done good except one, two mistakes. So we'll go with the risk management. Okay. Uh, See, I don't want to again discuss this because I have discussed this in two sessions just in one page. One page I talked everything on what is this process, risk analysis, risk evaluation, what are the risk controls, okay, what are the residual risk, benefit risk analysis, okay, overall residual risk, and post production activities or post production risks, how you will control them. Okay, all this I have discussed. So I told you like, oh, this there will be a sequence where you need to follow. This, the fourth one talks basically on the risk management plan. Okay, I told you like without planning, you should not do anything. Okay. Whether it's risk management, it's clinical, it's usability, or any activity on validation, you should have a plan. First, write the plan. How to write the plan also, I told you, you'll have a lot of guidance documents, a lot of standards. Read, get the content from the standard, like, okay, in this plan, what I should include. See, once you write the plan, it becomes easy for you to write the report or do the further testing of it or to further to follow what to do. Example in risk management plan, see what you need to do. First, identify, do the risk analysis. Okay. Risk analysis is first you need to identify the hazards, identification of hazards and hazardous situations. Okay. Some foreseeable misuses you need to identify, not only hazards and hazard situation, the misuse, user errors, reuse, repeated use, all that you need to identify. That's we call foreseeable misuse. Okay. Identification characteristics related to safety and risk estimation. In risk analysis only, you estimate what is the risk. Okay, risk estimation, as I said, is severity into occurrence. You estimate what is the risk index, we call it. You estimate what is the severity of it, what is the occurrence of it. Okay, you may get a doubt like what is the occurrence is nothing but the probability. How should I know the probability? Where from I get the data on probability? Okay, I'll explain to you. But the severity of the risk, you should be able to tell. It is very subjective. I mean, when you look at risk estimation, see, the same risk will have different severity. Okay, see, I think I told you in the last class, simple infection. If it is on infection on the topical topical side of the skin or topical infection, okay, the severity may not be so high. You can use some medication, topical medication, some ointments. Okay, the risk severity will be low. But think that there is an infection, okay, the harm is the infection or the risk is the infection that happens internally in your body. Okay, the severity of that infection will be very high. See, I'm talking about the same risk or hazard that is related to a microbial organism. Hazard that situation may vary. Okay, hazard situation is like infection on the skin. That is the hazarded situation because that is you have a non-invasive device. Non-invasive device never enters into the blood. Okay, just on the epidermis or something like in the dermis. So you'll have an infection. But something invasive devices, when they are unsterile, they cause sepsis or blood infection where the severity will be high. Think that okay, there's different type of infection. Like the infection is an antibiotic resistant organism. Okay, if it is a normal infection, you give intravenous antibiotics or oral antibiotics, it will cure. If it is an antibiotic resistant infection, like I've been reading of late, there are a lot of organisms which are resistant to antibiotics. Simple E. coli became resistant, which is there in our intestine. We have a lot of E. coli. See, Salmonella typhi become resistant to all antibiotics. You be aware of this. Okay. And the reasons are different. Like I have read it recently, Salmonella typhi, why it became resistant to antibiotics is because of the climate change. Okay, I posted it in my status also. Why it became Salmonella typhi causes typhoid, which is a very dangerous disease if it's not properly diagnosed. Okay, once it is becoming antibiotic resistant, not treated with the highest potency antibiotics like cephalosporins or combination of beta-lactam antibiotics, okay, the severity will be more. Okay, there will be another class of infections called nosocomial infections, which are basically hospital-related infections. A normal person who is admitted in hospital, okay, he gets infections because of the organisms that are there in the hospital with the different patients, which is contagious. So you grade infection into different types, high severity, low severity, but it is the same hazard. Okay, the situation, hazardous situation will be the same. Okay, but the severity of the risk may vary. So you need to be very careful. It's not like I'm not telling all risks will have different severity. Some risks will have different severity. So based on the nature of your device, you need to tell what is the severity of it. And probability, I will tell you. Okay, probability is very difficult, sometimes difficult to understand. So severity you can tell, then into probability, because risk estimation you need to quantify them. Okay, why you need to quantify is after risk controls, after you adopt the risk controls, what will be the risk? I mean, total risk estimation. Generally, it should come down. Okay, the severity may not come down, but at least the probability or occurrence should come down, and the risk has to be acceptable. After risk control, still the residual risk. After risk control, we call it as residual risk. If the residual risk is still not acceptable, unacceptable, then you should find lot of other ways to control the risk. Okay. Of course, the last option you will do is, that is the last option is to keep it in IFU, that I have the residual risk, this residual risk. You don't mention it as a residual risk in IFU, but you'll say that there is a chance of infection, it may lead to sepsis, or you may get infection in your lungs or somewhere where it is placed, or you may say it may cause topical infection, some hypersensitivity reactions. Okay, I am telling you this is for very low risk devices. When I go to high risk devices, sometimes you need to talk about mortality also. Okay, because the clinical data shows something like heart valves and cardiac stents. Okay, after a period of 1 year, there is a chance that 0.1 patients may die after 1 year of implantation of heart valves or stents. Okay, that you need to mention based on the clinical data what you have. Your follow-up clinical data says, because it is a study which you have conducted in real world, and the data is telling you that there will be some mortality. You should not lie. Of course, it depends upon risk factors, the age and all that stuff, but still you need to mention, okay, people with these risk factors, okay, with this age, there is a risk. Those who don't take medication, there is a risk that 0.1 or 0.2%, 0.5%, okay, who are implanted with this device will have complications. Generally, we write it in a very diplomatic language, will have further complications, cardiovascular complications that could lead to death. Okay, there is a very diplomatic way of writing even the death also, even the mortality also. We write it in a very sweet language, diplomatic language. He doesn't feel afraid. He'll think that I'll have complication, but that can be treated. But unfortunately, some of the complications you can't read them. Okay. I'll tell you like how to write an IFU if I have a time. The language we need to use while writing the IFU, and some residual risks. I mean, some of the adverse events, because I wrote IFUs when there is 1% death also. Okay. 1% death after 6 months when these implants are uh, used. It could be regulating coronary stents or heart valves, okay, or there are different heart valves like the pulmonary valves or tricuspid valves, okay, different types of stents like coronary stents or peripheral stents like the renal stents, okay, but the risk is more for the coronary stent because in heart everything becomes risky. So there is some clinical data early 10 years back which showed 1% will die, means 100 out of every 100, 1%, one patient is going to die after 6 months. But there is a very polite, diplomatic, nice way of writing that you are going to die, or 1% 1% who get implanted are going to die. And I talked about severity of infections, more elaborate, because recently, 1 month back, I had this problem of infection, okay, which led to such a serious situation where I have to go amputation of one of my toe. Okay, I was roaming, like I neglected it. I know I'd done some lot of self medication. That is what I do initially. Sometimes I'll be successful with my self diagnosis, self medication. By that time, 2 weeks passed. I went to a doctor, family doctor. He said it will happen. Just use this. It didn't work out. I got admitted in one hospital. Then I moved to another hospital. And finally, it was almost 1 month. The infection has become so severe that it spread to the bone also. It called osteomyelitis. And they said you need to do amputation, otherwise, it will spread to other parts of your leg and you need to remove your limb. Total leg if it spreads. So, I mean, I learned this risk control very much, like how you need to be careful. So I adopted a lot of risk controls and I know what are the residual risks. Okay. So, I mean, we need to work on the risk estimation, severity into occurrence. I told in US and other countries, they use risk probability number, RPN. Okay, what is RPN? What is another parameter they add? I said risk estimation is, a risk index is severity into occurrence or probability. What is RPN? RPN is risk probability number. Maybe Akanksha knows this. She is doing a 510K file. So RPN is same like severity into probability into, yeah, somebody said it.
Detection.
Yeah, detectability. Okay. Whether your risk controls are able to detect that risk, because that is very, very important. You don't keep all stupid risk controls where the risk is not controlled. You keep risk controls which are effective. Okay, they can stop the risk. Okay, it's not like increasing the manpower in QC to test more devices. Okay, that sometimes may work, but you should look into more. It's not like increasing the sample size for testing. Sometimes it may work, but as I said, the first option is inherent by design and other things you need to look. Second option is during production QC, product post-production activities you need to look. Okay, of course, of all of them you are not able to control risk, then you move to the third one, what Madhuri has written, like training, IFU, warnings, that this in IFU. Okay, so RPN is good thing, like you will have detectability really speaks how effective are your risk controls, whether the risk control is able to detect this. That is what we call verification of your risk controls. Okay, it will be there in this. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is when you write a risk management plan, you write all the risk analysis, like what are the hazards, hazard situations, safety, what is the foreseeable misuse that can happen, and finally you'll get into risk estimation. This is very difficult, writing risk estimation, like for every risk, harm, you need to write what is the severity and probability. Okay, if you are submitting for Europe or in India, severity into probability is fine. But if you are submitting to US, like Akanksha is doing for 510K other things, you need to write RPN number. Also, add detectability. Okay. Then your risk evaluation. You evaluate the risk. How you are evaluating? There are different types of evaluation. Okay. Quantitative method of evaluation, qualitative, semi-quantitative. I'll explain that. Failure effect mode analysis, FEMA, DFEMA. DFEMA is used in design. Okay. During design, you look at the failure effect mode analysis. There's PFEM also during the process. Okay. Quantitative, semi-quantitative, hazard analysis is a very simple one. Okay. And of course, for some IVDs, you have a different risk analysis, risk evaluation, how you evaluate the risk. Okay. Then comes your most like, which I like. I don't like risk analysis or risk evaluation. I like risk control options. What are the risk control options? You need to, for every things from your starting raw materials to your designs to your manufacturing process, okay, to your validations, which includes sterilization, packing, all that. Actually, all of these reports help you in risk controls. Okay, your biocompatibility is biggest risk control, your clinical validations or clinical evaluations, okay, usability engineering. There are a lot of risk controls you will do. Okay, your sterility tests, your stability studies, your packing validation, your transport validation, like lot of you are written, lot of testing, QC testing or EMC testing or electrical safety testing, mainly for software medical devices. Okay. Uh, and implementation of risk control measures, if they are implemented, are they effective or not? Okay. If they are effective, that is what detectability, whether they are able to detect. Okay, if they are able to, when you implement, if they are able to detect, okay, what will be the risk estimation after you implement risk controls? Risk estimation or severity into probability should come down. How much it comes down? It is based on the, of course, the number of risk controls you have and the effectiveness or the detectability of your risk controls. Then after doing all that stuff, still you have residual risk. Okay, you need to discuss residual risk in risk benefit analysis or benefit risk analysis. Okay, and you'll also have risk arising from risk controls, mainly in the designs. If you are changing design to control the risk, okay, design changes you do. Okay, if you do design changes, it can effectively control some of the risk. But the chance is that by changing some of the designs, some of the features, some of the parameters, it may add new risks. There is chance that it may give rise to new risks. So you need to rework on that. And overall evaluation of residual risk. Suppose you have, how many residual risks are there? You have 4, 5, 10. Okay, overall, how many are there? What is the overall risk index? You need to discuss. Okay, and discuss and correlate them with your clinical evaluation report. In your clinical evaluation report, what are the adverse events you are seeing? Where you get adverse events? Either you get from the clinical trial reports, your data, either you, if you have conducted any PMCF or your retrospective data, you will get what are the adverse events that happen. or your predicate to do a literature search or go into Mode. Mode is a good site to find the adverse events of any device. That is USFDA site. Or go through Udemy, that's a European site. Don't go to Metro Vigilance of India because nobody is reporting there. Okay, namesake it is there, Metro Vigilance Program of India. Except for taking training sessions and seminars, nobody is, reciprocating or reporting to that portal. But Mode and Udemy are good sites to know, like, you can get like 10 years period or more than that. What are the risks and what are the adverse events, complaints, field safety corrective actions of your devices or your predicate devices? Okay, then correlate your residual risk with them. I know, like, exactly somewhere they will correlate. If they are not correlating, come to me. I'll tell you how to correlate them. Okay. Once you correlate, as I said, they will further come as warnings, precautions, or contraindication. As I told, precautions means you use carefully this will give some painkillers before or give anesthesia, it induces pain. Warnings, you also say that you may have some sensitivity, hypersensitivity, or some materials may not choose. If you are using some cellulose cotton, cellulose may be allergic. Use some other hemostats. Okay, contraindications is something very, very strict. Like you should not, okay, mandatorily should not use in that patients. Warnings and precautions, you can use the device, but with some care. Okay, with lot of follow-up and lot of care, you can use them. If you don't have other mode of treatment, you can use them. But contraindications are something you absolutely say that you should not use in this patient population. Okay, you read your IFP, you will understand. Like in children, neonates, some are above 60 years, some say pregnant women, we should not use. There will be a lot of categories. And some, why you mention that you should not use in these cases is, in some of the areas, why you mention contraindications is because you have not tested those devices in that patient population. Okay, in your clinical trials or in your control clinical data, whatever you have done, you have not tested that patient population. So you don't know what happens if it is used in that patient. You have not tested it in children. You have not tested them in people who are allergic to so many things. You have not tested in people who are hypersensitive to certain things. You have not tested in geriatric patients who are above 60 years. You have not tested them in pregnant women. As I said, there will be three special population in any part of the world that are pediatric children, pregnant women, special population, geriatric special population, because these three category of population will have different physiology. Their functioning physiology will be different because of a lot of things. Old age people, they have a compromised physiology because of age related factors. Pregnant women, because of their hormonal changes, pregnancy, there will be a lot of changes in their physiology. Children, basically, they will have a lot of changes because a lot of systems in children, okay, still has to mature and develop. Okay, so that has to be contraindicated. Then you will go with evaluation of that. Then you do the risk management review. Finally, then you connect them with post-marketing activities, sorry, post-production activities like risk management in PMS. This is very, very important in UMDR. How you are connecting risk management with your post-marketing surveillance, in your complaints, in your customer feedbacks, okay, your field safety corrective actions. If there are new complaints that are coming, is it related to any of the risk your device has? Of course, it may be related to the patient and the user error, but still it is a risk. I said that user error is manufacturer problem. You need to take a responsibility for the user risk arising from user error or misuse or overuse or repeated use or off-label use. The manufacturer has to look into what I need to do. Okay, you say I mentioned in IFU, but that is not the answer. Okay, and these things, post-production act, if there is a complaint, is it a new one or your competitors' predicated devices have the same problem, or is it a new problem to your device? That is what we call trend analysis. You need to do a trend analysis of your complaint, whether this complaint coming in every batch or only in some centers of hospital. Because I know some complaints are very hospital centric, okay, user centric. Only that user will have the problems. Okay, no other user will have any problem. That user keeps complaining. So you need to look whether it's hospital centric. Then you need to work out what is the problem with that hospital. Whether the user is not trained or he doesn't have total equipment or he is using it in wrong directions of use, or I mean you need to work out. If the problem is spread over to all hospitals, if the same complaint or the same problem is there in all other hospitals, then you need to take it seriously. It could be a device related issue. Okay, otherwise it won't be there in all hospitals. Then you need to recall it. If it is in few centers, you can do some corrective action. Just ask them to stop it, not recall. Ask them to stop it. If it is a recall, you need to give the regulatory notice or advisory notice to the regulatory body that I am recalling all these batches of my devices. Simple IV tubing, I mean IV drip sets they recalled in US yesterday. Okay, in India we don't have that habit of recall anything. We silently take in the night and dump it somewhere. Okay, only the patients will suffer. But it is important that the manufacturer should understand, at least the hospital should. Anyway, the patient won't report. The hospital should report that we have the problem and you need to look in whether it's the same problem, same complaint or a different complaint. It is in one center or spread over all centers. Then before it becomes endemic or it spreads over as a pandemic. Okay, if it becomes pandemic, it will be a serious public issue. Mainly you see this in drugs like I told you an example, like cough syrup has killed 44 children in India. Nobody cares. Same cough syrup from one manufacturing company has killed one patient, 44 children. Okay, in a particular locality, I think in 2, 3 hospitals. And that is how we keep work. Okay, don't bother about it because we live by choice or we live by chance. Most of us live by chance. Okay, this is what I discussed. So before I stop this, because I already discussed on all these things, but let me share one important document, that is how you plan your risk management. That is a risk management plan. Actually, I have written this for one of my clients called Axon Therapeutics. It is, I have written it very simple, but I should have elaborated it more. But I'll share some more plans. Okay. We'll write the introduction about the company, what the products are, XYZ, like EU medical, what regulations, EU MDR, Annex 1, GSPR, all that stuff, and what is the scope. Okay. In 14971, they have also mentioned the scope. Better you copy and paste that scope here and mention your device. Okay. The risk management plan applies to the entire life cycle of the Axon Therapeutics. Only this you will change. Your device will come here. Okay, the risk management applies throughout the life cycle of the device. That's very common sentence because risk management should be applied starting from design. Risk management starts with design and comes to, it ends at PMS. Okay. It travels through all your purchasing, production, all clause in 13485. It travels to all regulations. Okay, your risk, your production, purchase, all documentation, management, resource management, infrastructure, environment, contamination, your your production, post-production activities. Okay, PMS. It comes to end, it comes to the PMS. In PMS, if you find any risk, it again goes back as a loop. Of course, it has covered the life cycle from raw materials till the end user. That's a PMS. But if you find any risk, any complaints, any adverse events, any FSCs, it comes back again to the design. I said inherent risk controls has to be first viewed inherent by design. So it comes back again to the design and development. If the design and development doesn't find any problem, okay, then it goes to production and post-production activities like QA, QC, validation, verification, XYZ. Okay, then it keeps moving to the clinical evaluation. If the risk is new, you identify a new risk, you need to include that in the risk management. Then for that, you need to find what is the harm or the risk. You need to write the risk estimation for the new risk. What are the risk control, whether they are acceptable. So new risk keeps adding. So that's why risk management files are dynamic. Okay, they are not static. It's not like you do once, okay, once for the entire device only once and leave it like how you do the back compatibility once in the life cycle of the device you do back compatibility. If there are no changes, you do only once. If there are any material changes, still you don't do it, you give some justification. Why I am not doing this? Okay, because we are very smart and intelligent. We know how to give justification. Okay, but risk management is not like that. It's a very dynamic document. You need risk management and clinical evaluation are not static document. They are dynamic. Every day you need to update based on your PMS feedback. The PMS is such an important thing. It occupies so much of prominence now. You need to have a separate PMS department. Okay, whether you do customer feedback, complaint handling, PSU or PMCF, vigilance, all the stuff. Okay, every day you need to keep monitoring. So the scope, I'm coming to the scope. So entire life cycle of your device, you write your device, including its development, manufacturing, label, clinical use, storage, distribution, disposal. It covers all identify hazards, hazard situations related to the device. Then you write the responsibility. Who is responsible? First, the management. Okay, risk management team. It includes clinical risk, QA, RA, everybody will come, production, R&D. Okay, who is the owner? Okay, generally RA or QA will take the ownership. Generally, QA will take the ownership of the risk management. Okay, what are the risk management activities? You say initial risk analysis, periodic review, post-production review. How you do risk analysis? Okay, risk analysis will be conducted using a systemic approach to identify hazards, estimate the risk. I'll show you another one, how to identify the hazards and probability of that, and intended and foreseeable misuse. Same like what are the contents there in the 14971, you have to write here. But just replace it with your device. The intended use of DS to ensure maintain patency XYZ. It is designed to elute drug. Reasonable foreseeable misuse includes but is not limited to use in vessels other than coronary arteries, improper sizing of the stand, or used by untrained operator. Identification of hazards, hazard situation. So design related hazards, manufacture hazards. This is a very broad classification of hazards. User related hazards, post production hazards. Okay. Material related you have. So design hazards you have material related back compatible, mechanical integrity of the stand, drug dosage, elution kinetic. Manufacturing hazards, contamination, improver installation, all these user related, test and fracture, thrombosis. These are user related. Post production degradation of the device over time, issue with storage and handling. And this is very important, risk estimation, which we discuss now. Okay, the probability scaling will be 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you quantify. But probability, how you will estimate. If it is, I'm sorry, this 10 to the power of minus 6. Okay, these are all superscript has to come. Okay, remote is less than 10 to the power of minus 6. Improbable is 10 to the minus 6 to minus 4. Okay, occasional, it is given a number. Frequent, less than 10 to the power of minus 2. Okay, and based on this, I'll tell you how to look at the probability scale. On what basis you will give the probability, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, or it is frequent. Okay, some depends upon your PMS reports also. Suppose you have marketed 1,000 devices. In that devices, how many complaints you have? In 1,000 you have 2 or 3. Then you can say based on my marketing data or reports, I have this many. But that is not only the factor. Okay, I will tell you it probability is equal to, and that's why I said once you identify the hazard, it should have an hazardous situation to cause an harm. So that is why we call probability P is equal to P0 into P1. Okay. So probability is equal to hazard. When encountered with a hazardous situation, it will turn into a harm. What is the probability of the harm? I'll tell you the calculation. This is just a plan which I'm explaining to you that you should also able to write. Okay. Severity also, then it will be given like this. Actually, severity also will have numbering. Okay, which I'll show later. If it is negligible, no injury, minor discomfort, but this also has to be classified very, because you may find grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. Sometimes you are serious, somebody what is serious may look like minor. That's why I said in classification, in infection, like when you grade it, Okay, some infection may come in grade 2, some may come in grade 3. Okay, but I'll tell you, uh, actually, this is what ISO 1348 has given to us. Sorry, 1497 has given, but there is a very clear definition of how to write the severity. Okay, which I'll show it in separate, I mean, in the lecture notes which I have, how to look into the severity and the grading. So now the probability is, if it is remote and negligible, okay, it will become, risk estimation will become 1 into 1. But if the probability is 4, okay, the risk is happening very frequently. The probability of the complaint or the risk is frequent and it is critical. Okay, it will become 16. 4 into 4 is 16. Means you are at the highest risk estimation. Sometimes the probability may be very less. It is remote, but the severity may be high. Okay, then vice versa. Sometimes the probability may be very high. The severity may be very negligible. Which one you prefer? Low probability, high severity, or high probability, low severity? Akanksha, you tell which one you prefer? No, I can't hear you. So generally, people, of course, both are risky, both are dangerous, but if you have low severity, okay, and frequency is more, I don't say it is good or fine, still it is a problem, but worst case scenario, it is not causing any harm or injury to the patient. It's negligible. But think at this scenario, okay, it is remote, okay, only 1 in 10 lakhs is happening, but it is life threatening or death. Okay, one in 10 lakhs is happening, or 1 in 1 lakh is happening. Okay, very remote. Probability is very remote, but the severity is critical that it is causing mortality or death. On the contrary, if you see, it is frequent, happening after every 10 to the power of 2 is 100. Okay, out of every 100 you have this frequently happening, and it is negligible. Maybe some complaint on the packing or some dislodgement, or generally you see this in low risk devices or class A, class B devices. You see frequent risk or probability will be high, risk will be negligible. But when you move to high risk devices, okay, the probability will be remote, but the risk will be very high. Severity will be very high. It will be very critical. That's why in classification we call them high risk devices or class 4, class D or class 3 devices. Small things, it may happen in one patient remote, but still it may kill the or cause mortality. So you need to write probability into severity. What is the quantifiable number? Okay, then you apply risk controls. I mean, before that, you need to do the risk evaluation and acceptability criteria. How much you need to bring down? What is acceptable risk? Okay, I'll show you different methods of risk evaluation. I said quantitative, semi-quantitative, hazard analysis, PEMA, and all that. I'll explain to you in my lecture notes. Okay, but you need to bring risk as low as reasonably practicable. This is as per ISO 14971. That's why I said I'll tell you some more contradictions with this. But EMDR says, what EMDR says? Can anybody
As
tell?
low as possible.
EMDR says, yeah, Suma mother is right. As low as possible. Okay. It's called LAP, as low as possible. And it also says there is
As
one
far
more
as
clause,
possible.
as low as possible without economic considerations. If you want to spend money, redesign, redo all the design and development, you do it. Spend money on it. If it is $10 million, spend it. Okay. That is what we call economic considerations. Without economic considerations, okay, you spend money on your device and bring them as low as possible. That is what UMDR says, including economic considerations. Okay, and there are few other things also where UMDR has contradiction with, I'll tell you that in the lecture notes. Okay, there will be unacceptable risks. Okay, that generally we call risk in red zone. If the risks are acceptable, okay, generally they will be in green zone. If they are okay in yellow zone, they are as low as reasonably practicable, still they are risks. So you need to bring them all those in red zone to green zone by risk controls. All the risks, unacceptable risks in red zone, you need to bring them into green zone by using risk control options, risk control mitigation methods, and even those in yellow zone, you need to bring them into green zone. But some in yellow zone are accepted, but you need to give proper explanation. Okay, these are risk control options. I said first it will come by inherent safety by design and manufacturing. The primary approach, this is the first line approach, using a proven biocompatible material. A lot of things will be there based on your design, based on your raw material. Okay, then there will be protective measures in medical device itself. Okay, this also includes protective measures, also includes okay uh, some of the components that help the device not to cause risk to the patient. Okay, for example, you will have, I mean, I can take a lot of examples, but you have some catheters, urinary catheters. Okay, using a flexible material, using some antimicrobial coating, but urinary catheters are kept for long time. So in urine, you may have infections. So these are some of the protective measures. You coat with nano silver or antimicrobial coatings. It won't cause infections. Something like even catheters which are used in vessels, you use hydrophilic coating so that when you use hydrophilic coatings, it goes very smoothly inside the body, inside the vessels. So there will be some protective coating, but for the first primary is by design manufacturing process. which includes your QC tests, all your QC tests, including raw materials, your validation reports, your test studies, your verification studies, all that will come. Protective measures also include some of the QC reports. Then the third line or the last risk control option is providing an information on safety, providing warnings, detailed instructions for use, that is IFU training, lot of things comes, promotional material, training of all that. Then what you do with residual risk? You evaluate the residual risk. Okay. If there are risk control measures, that's fine. If there are no further risk control measures, you reevaluate them. If the residual is still unacceptable, further control measures will be implemented. How? Further control measures, which include, like, say, further control after using all risk controls, further control measures is mention it in the IFU that as a precaution or a warning or a contraindication. Okay. Then you write the benefit risk analysis. This, I'm telling you, this is the very, very important content where all technical reviewers will read it. Read it word to word. What are the benefits and what are the residual risks? Okay. Risks that cannot be reduced, okay, further as low as possible, as low as reasonably practicable, whether it's 14971 or EUMDR. That's why I said, like yesterday, the last week, whether you need to follow the standard or the regulation. Okay, as somebody said, you need to follow the standard. Somebody said, like I think Pranita told, we need to follow the regulation. So it's always better to follow the regulation. Okay, because based on the regulations only, you will get the approvals. If you debate with the CE body or the technical reviewer, I'll follow the standard. Then he'll ask what I have got regulations. My country has regulations. These regulations says like as low as possible. You are following a standard as low as reasonably practicable. So instead of, okay, we can go with an debate argument which is better. I have already written one article on that, review article on whether to follow the regulation or the standard, mainly on the risk management. Okay, because we don't want lot of queries, comments, non-NCs from the reviewer. You say, okay, we'll follow the regulation. Okay, you need to do the risk benefit analysis, perform the clinical follow-up, all this stuff. Evaluation of overall residual risk. Okay, this is exactly what is there. The contents what you see in 14971, you see that in the plan. It's not that somebody in mid of the night he got an idea how to write a plan, risk management plan. He got a dream and he has written it. It is just follow the standard. What are the contents in that? Okay, this is what risk controls, residual risk evaluation, risk benefit analysis, then evaluation of overall residual risk, then the production activities, proactive data collection basically is customer feedbacks. Okay, vigilance system. Then you have PSU or PMCF. Then finally you prepare the risk management file. Risk management file has the plan, risk analysis, records, that is risk estimation, hazard situation, risk estimation, evaluation results, risk control measures, residual risk, benefit risk analysis, the final report on overall residual risk acceptability. Okay, so you'll have, from plan you will have all the records and final report. So this is how the plan. This is not something great or novel or something so scientific people will do. Just people will follow the standard and pick up the contents from that and structure it make a checklist of it and structure it here and include their device and say that based on, but it varies with the device. I've done it for exam therapeutics for an implant device, coronary stent. Okay, a high risk device, but still I need to elaborate this. I have done this for CD scope. Okay, though I have used UMDR just to impress them, impress CD scope people that I am following UMDR. Oh, but for UMDR, it has to be still elaborate. Okay, I need to change a lot of things like alarm. I can't keep this. Okay, alarm. I need to keep alarm like as low as possible because I'm applying for Europe. I have done this for Citysco, so it is very concise and short. Okay, with this I'll close. Maybe in next class, I'll complete risk management with detail practical examples. Okay, not theoretical, real practical examples like for one device, how you do the probability, severity, how you do the risk estimation, after risk controls, how your uh, risk will come down and how to structure it. Actually, it will come in a tabular form. If we are using RPN number, how it will come. Okay, acceptability, how we will show. Mainly, I will show the risk matrix. Okay, the risk evaluation matrix. Whether you want to do simple hazard analysis or quantitative, many people adopt semi-quantitative method. Okay, even I do semi-quantitative only because it it is not, I'm saying that it's not that it is easy, but it gives a very clear understanding. Okay, like I said, different heat map, like what is in red zone, what is in green zone, what is in yellow zone, how to bring it back after risk controls. Okay, different estimations we'll discuss, but this is the one we need to discuss a lot on evaluation acceptability criteria. Of course, risk controls again depends upon your own device, varies with device, but then the general risk controls are design and manufacturing risk controls, protective measures, all this. And the other important one is on risk benefit analysis, how to write this in a very, very formal manner, okay, with a lucid language. Not, there will be a technique in writing this. You should not write too hard on the risk. You should, write, use heavy words or do more lifting on the benefit and here and there a little few things, not overemphasizing the risks. Of course, we need to write the risk, but not overemphasizing. But the lion's share will be there on the benefits. I'll show you like how to do. Okay, then post production is also important. How you link with the PMS. Of course, since I have done it for CDSCO, I forgot the linkage with this with GSPR. It again has to be linked with GSPR or essential requirement. The GSPR is for UMDR, essential requirements for CDSCO. So it again links back to GSPR because GSPR, the major contents in GSPR are risk. If you look at all the sections in GSPR, that 42 pages or 50 pages, everything is linked to risk. So you need to link this risk management with PMS, then with GSPR, then to the clinical. Okay. Then once you link to the clinical, you'll get the IFU. Okay. Then again back into design and development. If you find any new risk or complaints in the PMS, you have to loop it back to the design and development. That is a complete cycle of risk management. Okay, I'll discuss next session. Okay, I'll complete this in next session at any cost. And the second thing, as I urged or requested you, whether you want me to talk on global regulatory affairs or should we go with software medical devices, let me know. Okay, just Post me from your WhatsApp or in the group or personal. I'll take a call on majority or on consensus whether you should go for software or we should go for global regulatory affairs. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking more time. Actually, I want to interact more, but we have very less time. You guys are joining at 7, but I can't proceed till 9, 9:30. Maybe you need to have a dinner. Of course, tomorrow is holiday. You can sleep till late. I mean, till forenoon. That's not an issue. But next time on notes, I want to interact more, take questions. Okay, from your perspective of your company perspective, what devices you are working, how you need to work. Because I mean, every time it's happening one way. Okay, so I mean, explain you much in the next session. Go for your dinner and take care and bye. Okay, I'll share the recording next. Take care. Bye. See you tomorrow. I mean, actually, see you on Thursday on AML.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, bye.